What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. So with spring practice now underway, I wanted to start looking at what the biggest questions surrounding different programs across the country were and how I think they will ultimately be answered when all is said and done, with this video focusing in on the South Carolina Gamecocks, who have a lot of potential questions to answer this spring. So let's go ahead and get into it with question 1. And for my first question, it is, how good is Spencer Rattler actually? This is, in my opinion, the biggest question to be answered this spring because it drastically determines the trajectory of the program for this upcoming season. If Rattler ends up being just a decent starter, then the results of the season are going to be dramatically different than if he were to become a legit top-level quarterback in America, similar to what he was at Oklahoma, or even maybe better than that with another year of development under him. If Rattler can be the quarterback that he has the talent to be and that SC hopes he will be, then South Carolina can really be very good next season. And I mean very good, especially by their standards. I'm talking, 9+ win season if Rattler is as good as they hope and is as good as advertised. A great quarterback opens up so much for the rest of the offense and for the play calling, and after the quarterback South Carolina has had in recent years, I think it would be a great change of pace that the fans in Columbia would absolutely love. I personally think that Rattler is going to shock people with how good he ends up being. I'm seeing a lot of people online that just don't seem to think he's going to pan out, and they may end up being right in the end. But as for right now, I think he's going to turn out quite well, especially compared to what South Carolina has had in the past, and I think he's going to lead them to one of their better seasons in recent memory. Question number 2 for me is going to be, who steps up at wide receiver? And this question goes hand in hand with the first question, in my opinion, because they can have a similar impact on the results of the season. Keeping Josh Vann is absolutely huge for South Carolina next season. Jaheim Bell is another proven stud at the tight end, wide receiver, hybrid position, whatever you want to call him. And hopefully Austin Stogner is a legit weapon for South Carolina as well, just like he was at Oklahoma. However, South Carolina is going to need at least one other perimeter wide receiver to take the next step heading into next season if they want to really overhaul this offense that was very sluggish at times last year and very limited in their ability to push the ball down the field. They have a number of guys who are decent options at wide receiver, but none of them are scary players who can really be game changers that have to be schemed around, excluding maybe Josh Vann. Guys like DeCurion Joyner, E.J. Jenkins, Amarian Brown, Xavier Leggett, and Antoine Wells are all guys that could take that next step heading into next year and become real contributors to the offense next season. But at least one of them is going to have to, in my opinion, if they really want to maximize the Spencer Rattler addition. I personally think it's going to be DeCurion Joyner that steps up in his last season on campus, but it could be any of the guys I just listed, maybe even somebody different. They all have slightly different skill sets, and they don't need one specific type of receiver. They just need somebody who can take advantage of single coverages when the opposing defenses double-team Josh Vann or put heavy focus on Jaheim Bell and Austin Stogner. They need another receiver that can take advantage of that situation and be a very good number 2 guy for Rattler to throw to. Question number 3, is the offensive line improved, and if so, by how much? The offensive line was a major problem for South Carolina last season, and that's a unit that can and absolutely will crush a team's chances to compete, especially in the SEC, if they aren't as good as you need them to be. South Carolina absolutely has to be able to protect Spencer if they want to have any hope or chance at being a real SEC contender next season, even at a moderate level. And they're going to need to open up holes for their running backs to be effective and have an effective running game as a whole next season. Last year, despite having very talented backs like Zaquandre White and Kevin Harris, the running game was disappointing, and it was largely due to poor and inconsistent line play from them up front. South Carolina has talented backs once again next season, but they won't be able to do anything without improvement up front from the offensive line. Luckily, the offensive line did seem to get better throughout the year, and South Carolina returns all of their offensive linemen from last season, and another year of development and coaching together as a unit should really help to improve that unit going forward next season, help them out a lot, and it absolutely needs to in order for South Carolina to have the kind of year that they're going to want to have. I personally think the offensive line will determine how this season goes on offense for South Carolina, and while I do think they will be improved, I still don't see it as a strength of the team. Question number 4 for me is how will they replace their lost talent? The main lost talent for South Carolina is at running back and then the star pass rusher, J.J. Enigbare. Replacing the running back shouldn't be too bad with guys like Marshawn Lloyd and Juju McDowell in the fold, as well as multiple transfer additions that South Carolina has made at this position as well. Running back will be set. But the one thing that I think they're missing at the running back spot is that bigger bruising back like Kevin Harris was. And I don't really see one guy right now that can fill that role on his own. But as a committee of backs, I think they're going to be just fine and they're going to be more than capable to fill in those shoes. The bigger issue to me is losing Enigbare off the defense. This is a defense that has a lot of depth issues and holes, particularly in the back end of it, and losing an elite pass rusher is only going to exacerbate that. Luckily for South Carolina, their defensive line will probably be the strength of the team and will certainly be the strength of the defense next year, so replacing Enigbare should be doable with the guys they have behind him, particularly guys like Jordan Burch that I would like to look to. But they're going to need somebody to really step up as that premier pass rusher of the group. Right now they have a bunch of guys who are decent pass rushers and are very good players, but nobody that's a great player. And they really need a guy who can just take over that, become an elite level pass rusher like Enigbare was, to step up, take lead, take charge of that front seven, and really become a matchup nightmare to make things easier on everybody else. That is going to be interesting to see how they answer it. I personally think that if anybody can do it, it'll be Jordan Burch, but we'll have to wait and see how that pans out. And my last question, number 5, is can Shane Beamer and his players handle success and expectations? Now, this question to me is by far the hardest to answer at this point. It's hard to tell how good or bad the team is handling their success and hype just yet, because we haven't seen them play, and there really isn't a good way to know until you do see them on the field. And I personally don't really foresee this as being an issue, at least not just yet, but it could start to rear its head this year, and it'll be an interesting storyline to follow if South Carolina continues to have success like they had last year. Anybody who's had high-level success in really anything, but particularly in football, they know the other things that come with it and the other things that success and expectation bring to the table and how hard those things can be to handle and manage, especially for a team of guys that are so young like a college football team will be, and at South Carolina, guys who have likely never experienced it before, at least to this extent. And that's a lot. That's a lot to handle for very young guys. And having a very new head coach in Shane Beamer only furthers that issue. However, from what I have seen from Shane, I really don't think he's going to have any issues handling the current hype around the team. The worry is more so with the players than anything else. I think the coaching staff will be more than fine. It's just going to be very interesting for me to see if they can really block out all of those distractions that come with success and come with expectations, sort of keep the train on the track, so to speak, going forward, to keep on building on that momentum that they started getting rolling in their way from last year. And I personally think they're going to handle it fine this year. If they were going to put another, really good season together like last year, though, then it would be really, really difficult heading forward. The more success you start to stack onto each other, the more this becomes an actual issue that you need to address and you need to get used to. But as far as this year's concerned, I think they're going to be fine. And as far as the spring is concerned, it's going to be our first chance to really see the team and test their mentality heading in to next season. And that is going to be very interesting to see and follow, in my opinion. Anyway, that'll do it for this video. Let me know down below in the comment section what questions you guys have for South Carolina to answer in this spring, and what you think of the questions I had, as well as any answers that you may have for them. Also, if you've made it this far in the video, go ahead and leave a like because it helped out the channel tremendously, and subscribe for more college football content in the future, as I will continue to upload very regularly going forward. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.